The only thing that I really spent any time with, and by spent any time with, I mean actually completely beat, was GoldenEye Rogue Agent. I was feeling like garbage, I think on Sunday or something like that, and I was like, I'm literally just gonna sit down and play through this video game. For some reason, I mean, when I played GoldenEye on stream, I was like, oh man, I kind of just like how this game feels, and it's just like very much a simple run and gun, feels very much of the era. You know, it's like 2005 or something like that, so you know, it's pretty close to Halo 2 coming out, I believe, and dual wielding guns was a big thing, so this game has dual wielding guns in it. But yeah, it was for the most part like a fast-paced run and gun, at least in the normal difficulty. You just can kind of run and just like, you know, shoot through a mess of enemies, and there's a lot of health pickups and your health recharges, and you also have like these different like special powers and things like that kind of help you get you through the game. I'll talk about this a little bit deeper in a second. But it is, when it comes to the weapons, it's pretty light on weapons through most of it. It's pretty much the same submachine gun and the same shotgun and same pistols over and over and over again. But it's kind of weird. The back half of the game actually has a very good mix of diverse weaponry, but they don't really like distribute it through the rest of the game itself. I think that's due to potentially how like the plot moved forward, because early on you are just using like very standard guns, while the later guns are very much more the sci-fi guns. So it just makes more sense to only allow those in like the secret weapons development plant, which is like the second to last level, right? So I think it would have been cooler to have those different types of guns spread out a bit more across the campaign to add some variety. But overall, I think just the kind of run and gun nature of it, not worrying about cover that much and things like that, was pretty nice, and the guns themselves that were in the game, you know, were pretty fitting for what you're doing. So being GoldenEye Rogue Agent, if you don't know, this is the sequel to GoldenEye, and essentially one of the characters, or the main character in the game, who's not 007, has his eye shot out, and so he gets a golden eye implanted in his eye hole socket thing, right? And so that GoldenEye has different powers. So it allows for a few different things. One is being able to see through walls, so you can actually see enemies through the walls themselves, and some of those later guns I talked about have the ability to shoot through the walls and hit enemies. You can hack things. Hacking things did not seem very useful outside of some very specific scenarios, unfortunately. And then you also can put up a shield. This one was probably the most useful. Basically, the shield has like a set amount of energy, and then as you get shot, it like drains that energy essentially. So being a run and gun style game in some ways, where you're just kind of like running towards enemies and just kind of strafing up to them, it was very useful to be able to just like toggle the shield on and basically just eat a bunch of extra damage without having to worry too much about, you know, how much body armor you have and things like that. And then it's also like a psychokinetic or whatever it would call it. I don't know what you'd call it, but you have the ability to like pick up enemies and throw them with your mind essentially, or your eye. And I didn't find that super useful because the energy requirements of it were super high, but they were kind of neat because when you would throw enemies, they could like ricochet off each other. You could throw them off cliffs and stuff like that, and throw them into walls. So there's cool things about it, but the energy cost is A, it's a really late game power, and B, it just like it takes up like 70% of your 100% meter, and your meter does not recover super quickly. So it's like something you can use maybe like once every encounter, and then it also, you have a shared meter between all these different skills. So in using it, you pretty much are saying, I am going to have less resources to deal with encounters during this fight. So I never used it really. The big one was the shield that you could kind of block with, and then as you got later in the game, seeing through walls became very valuable because the game does get quite a bit harder towards the end, and it does kind of slow down a bit more, and you need to play more slowly, more methodically. Although I will say, if you play on normal, that run and gun nature is kind of in place, but I would think that maybe on hard, the ability to see through walls might be more valuable. But I say that, but at the end of the day, like to get the guns that actually shoot through walls and things like that, it's so late in the game that maybe these different skills wouldn't even really matter until you get those guns that actually can, you know, complement them to some degree. So, because there's not really a reason to look at through a wall and just see an enemy unless you're like just trying to find the enemy if you can't shoot them through the wall, right? So I don't know how valuable that would really be most of the time, but anyways, it was a pretty fun game, I think, overall. I think if you were playing it when it came out, it probably played like a lot of other shooters of the era, but, you know, going back to it after years and years of not really playing a game like that, I think it was a fun way to do that. And I will say the story is kind of nonsensical to me. Admittedly, I don't know anything about 007. I don't know the story of GoldenEye, so maybe having some additional context would help you out there. But it just kind of like rolled off me. I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I'm a rogue agent working against 007, and I'm gonna go help Goldfinger or something. I don't know. So yeah, it was a fun thing to run through, and I'm glad I played through it.